I heard some shit out here.
Starting to regret that I stopped at this rest stop.
In the hunting circles of Chetwynd, British Columbia, there's a chilling legend that has been passed down for generations. They say that if you spend the night alone in the forest, you might encounter a strange kind of bear, one that stands on two legs like a man. These creatures are said to sneak into campsites when hunters aren't paying attention, stealing food, wrecking tents, and even sabotaging traps, but it doesn't stop there. Some locals claim that these creatures venture closer to civilization, tapping on door frames to mimic human behavior and beg for food. Yet, when homeowners open the door, nothing is there. According to legend, once you've caught their attention, they won't stop harassing you, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Because of these stories, hunters in British Columbia rarely venture into the wilderness alone. They almost always go in pairs, or at the very least, bring a hunting dog. British Columbia, Canada's westernmost province, is home to 7 national parks, teeming with grizzly bears, caribou, and other massive wildlife. But it's also a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings. One well-known Bigfoot tracker, Todd Standing, famously captured rare footage of the creature here. In 2018, writer John Zeta experienced something just as eerie, an unearthly howl that echoed through the valleys of Revelstoke National Park. He managed to capture the terrifying sound on his phone, leaving many to wonder, was it just a wild animal? Or was something far more mysterious lurking in the forests of British Columbia?
Starting to regret that I stopped at this rest stop.
The mysterious disappearance of Jim Barnes. September and October mark the peak of hunting season in North America, drawing countless hunters into the wilderness. On October 18, 2024, 28-year-old Jim Barnes set out with his loyal dog Murphy for a hunting trip in the remote forest near Chetwynd, British Columbia. Standing 5'11" and weighing around 200 pounds, Jim was an experienced outdoorsman with nearly a decade of hunting under his belt. He had always been passionate about wildlife and lived on the outskirts of Chetwynd with his girlfriend Kayla. Together they had raised Murphy, a female golden retriever, treating her like their own child. As hunting season neared its end, Jim wanted one last trip before winter set in. On the morning of October 18th, he packed his gear, loaded his rifle and knife, and drove off with Murphy. But shortly after entering the wilderness, both Jim and his dog mysteriously vanished. When Jim failed to return, Kayla grew increasingly worried. She reported his disappearance to the Chetwynd police, and since the report was made promptly, authorities were optimistic about finding him. However, after nearly a month of searching, there was still no sign of Jim. Then on November 28th, a call came into the sheriff's office. The caller, a local animal shelter worker, reported that they had taken in a severely underweight golden retriever days earlier. The dog closely resembled Murphy, the one that had gone missing with Jim. Murphy was brought to Kayla, and the moment she saw her, she knew it was him. But the circumstances of his discovery were disturbing. Murphy had been found hobbling out of the bushes near a highway, 180 kilometers, about 112 miles, away from where Jim disappeared. The dog was in critical condition, weak from starvation, and had a completely broken front leg. The shelter worker said that if he had been found even a few days later, he wouldn't have survived. When Kayla took Murphy home, his behavior was alarming. He trembled constantly and refused to be left alone for even a few minutes. Anytime Kayla stepped away, Murphy would break into agonized howls. It was clear something had traumatized him. Theories and the unanswered questions. What happened to Jim Barnes remains a mystery. Some speculate he was attacked by a pack of wolves or a grizzly bear, both common predators during hunting season, when gut piles from deer attract them in large numbers. During the search, authorities did find wolf tracks near the area. However, wildlife experts questioned this theory. Canadian gray wolves typically weigh between 90 to 130 pounds and hunt in packs of 5 to 10. A golden retriever of Murphy's size, around 80 pounds, should have had multiple bite marks if attacked by wolves. But Murphy's body showed no such injuries aside from the single devastating leg fracture. A veterinarian who examined Murphy concluded that whatever injured him had incredible strength. If a bear had attacked, Murphy would likely have lost an entire limb. If it had been wolves, his body would have shown multiple bite wounds. But aside from his severely broken leg, he had no other visible injuries. Whatever did this wasn't just powerful, it had an unusual way of inflicting harm. Kayla refused to believe that wolves or bears were responsible. Murphy had been on countless hunting trips with Jim and was well trained in tracking and sensing danger. He had encountered both predators before and knew how to react. More importantly, Jim had a high-powered rifle capable of taking down a full-grown grizzly, so why hadn't he used it? The most unsettling discovery came later. Jim's gray Chevrolet pickup was found deep in the wilderness, the driver's side door left ajar. His phone, wallet, backpack, and even his rifle were still inside, untouched. When investigators examined his phone, they found something chilling. In the last moments before his disappearance, Jim had recorded footage suggesting he was being followed. But by what? And why did Murphy survive while Jim never returned? Whatever lurks in the forests of Chetwynd remains a mystery, one that still sends shivers down the spine of those who hear the tale.
I heard some shit over here.
We might never fully grasp the fear and pressure of encountering something like Bigfoot. But let me share a story from a seasoned survivalist named Brandon Reynolds. My name is Brandon Reynolds. I camp alone. A lot. I've seen strange things in the wilderness. I've come across makeshift shelters, crudely built by something that wasn't human. Inside, I've found the remains of torn-apart animals, but their muscles and organs were left untouched. It felt like something was toying with its food rather than eating it. I'm 37 years old, and for nearly 5 years I've spent most of my time hiking and camping alone. I've gone months without speaking to another human. I've taken every survival course imaginable. I've walked most of the Appalachian Trail and spent weeks in the remote wilderness of the US and Canada. I know the sounds of cougars, whether they're mating, fighting, or stalking prey. I know the calls of foxes, bobcats, owls, and every bird in the region. I know the rustling of moose, elk, weasels, and even the buzz of insects. When you spend every waking moment in the wild, you have to know these sounds, you have to know what's hunting you. But there are 3 or 4 sounds I've heard that terrified me, sounds that don't match any known animal in North America. One of those sounds made me abandon camp earlier than planned. One night, my best friend and I were camping deep in the Oregon mountains. He's my age, but even more experienced in the wild. We were sitting around the fire talking, completely sober, when suddenly, from a ravine about 300 yards away, a deep, guttural roar erupted. It lasted for minutes. It was so loud I could feel it vibrating in my skull. It wasn't just a roar, it was something massive, something that could shake the earth. The only way I can describe it is that it sounded like we were in the middle of a horror movie, like some monstrous predator was hunting its prey. In my mind, I could see it, a victim being torn apart by something that shouldn't exist. 2 grown men with decades of hunting experience, armed with rifles powerful enough to drop a 1,000-pound bear, and we clung to each other, sobbing in fear. We weren't thinking about fighting. We weren't thinking about defending ourselves. We just wanted to run. At first light, we bolted for civilization. We didn't even pack our tents, we just left. I once found a recording of a sound that was the closest thing to what we heard that night. But when I tried to share it, the video had been taken down. Kayla, Jim Barnes's girlfriend, had heard unsettling things from him before he vanished. Jim used to complain about hearing strange knocking sounds late at night. There was no pattern to it, just sudden, loud knocks that echoed through the silence. He'd grab his flashlight and his gun, check both the front and back yards, but never found anything. He'd call out, "Who's there?" But there was never an answer. When authorities found Jim's truck, the driver's side door was wide open. His phone, backpack, and hunting rifle were still inside, untouched. He had been just about to leave. So what happened in those final moments? Given the deep snow, there were no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away. It was as if something had waited for the perfect moment, when Jim was vulnerable, mid-step into his truck, to strike. Some believe Bigfoot has learned to avoid armed hunters, waiting until they lower their guard. Could that explain Jim's disappearance? Then there was Murphy, Jim's loyal golden retriever. Retrievers are bred to assist hunters bringing back small game. They're gentle, but when threatened, they'll fight with everything they have. Murphy had been injured, badly, but somehow he survived for nearly a month in the freezing wilderness. Jim, it seemed, had fought to protect his dog, and in doing so, he lost his life. To this day, no human remains have ever been found. No one knows what truly happened in those woods. But one thing is clear: Murphy does. Since that fateful night, Murphy has never set foot in the forests of British Columbia again. The authorities, desperate for answers, once tried to take him back to the area where Jim vanished, hoping he might pick up a familiar scent or lead them to a clue. But the moment his paws touched that rugged wilderness, something inside him broke. His legs gave out, his body trembled, and he refused to move. It was as if he knew that whatever took Jim was still out there, watching. Jim's family says Murphy has never been the same. The once energetic, fearless hunting dog is now a shadow of his former self. His wounds tell a story of a brutal struggle, a shattered front leg, deep scars across his body, and a fear that grips him even in the safety of home. The trauma runs deep. Murphy, who once roamed the wild without hesitation, now refuses to be left alone. If separated from his family, he howls in terror, a chilling sound that echoes through the night. It's not just pain, it's pure fear. But what exactly did Murphy see that night? What did he fight against, and why was he spared when Jim was not? The mystery of Jim Barnes's disappearance may never be solved. No human remains have ever been found. No logical explanation fits. But one undeniable truth remains: Murphy knows. And the way he cowers at the mention of that place, the way his eyes dart around as if expecting something to emerge from the darkness, tells us everything we need to know. Something else is out there, something that doesn't just attack but hunts. Something that watches, something that waits. Could it still be lurking in those woods, preying on the next unfortunate soul who wanders too deep? Or was Jim just one of many victims, a chilling warning of what truly exists beyond the safety of civilization? What do you think? Was Jim's disappearance the work of a natural predator or something far more sinister? Could it be Bigfoot, waiting for the right moment to strike? Or is there something even darker and more intelligent roaming the forests of British Columbia? Let's unravel this mystery together. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you love exploring the unexplained, the terrifying, and the unknown, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, this is only the beginning. Stay safe, stay aware, and whatever you do, don't go into the woods alone.